Hey, welcome everyone to the Pick Six podcast where we discuss the biggest stories in college football. I know that was a little cringeworthy, but it's okay because we are having a phenomenal start to the week. And then, I had to break out my Columbia fishing shirt because, guys, I had to reel in someone for this recap for this week. We got none other than our boy Rudy Tamarchio in the house. Rudy, how have you been, brother? Welcome back to the show. It's so good to have you. How have you been, my man?
I'm about 10 pounds heavier. I've gone up a waist size, and I'm about at week 19 or 18 of like 20 that'll be on the road. So I'm just happy to be back, and I'm happy that we get to talk some football again.
Oh, bro, it feels so good. It's like the gang is back together. It feels so good to have you back, my man. Listen, since you are the guest right now, well, you're not even the guest. Welcome back home. I don't know what's going on right now. My alarm's telling me to go pick my kids up. It's a holiday. It doesn't know it's a holiday. It doesn't know that I'm filming. Clearly, Rudy, as the guest of honor, where do you want to start this thing off, man? Because there's so many things we can talk about today. Where do you want to kick it off?
I'm happy, honestly, as the guest, I'm happy to go anywhere you want. We can either revel in this victory that we just had last night. We could talk about how angry I was that I wasn't there because I just hopped off a plane this afternoon from Orange Beach, Alabama, where I saw a bunch of very sad people and I could not stop my laughter at all. So I've honestly seen like all three sides of the emotions, from being really, really happy to people being really, really sad, and even some really happy Florida State fans, because we got a few FSU
Yeah.
people over at Sport Fishing Championship, and they're talking now about trying to get a luxury box together. They're like, "We're doing it at Doak. You guys are coming up," and I'm just sitting there going, "I don't know if you want me there right
Yeah.
now, because you guys are really excited. We get it. I'm so glad you guys got, you're 50% to your win total from last year, but."
Yep.
don't let's not get ahead of ourselves. So wherever you want to start, I'm happy to start.
Listen, I first think I think we have to get let's just get the elephant out of the room and clear the way. Carson Beck is Gucci. He's Gucci. I mean, the whole talk of the offseason was, is Carson Beck going to come through? Is Carson Beck going to be real? I mean, we're going to get to the second, which probably is the bigger story, but I really want to jump into that later, which is the defense, obviously. But let's just simmer really quick on how great Carson Beck was last night.
Happy to. Let's rewind this to when we were doing this podcast together even more consistently last season to start off Pick Six. We talked a lot about the initial season was Cam Ward and how he did against the Heisman frontrunners of the 2024 season. One of the guys that we talked about a lot was Carson Beck. Some things we mentioned was he's got some struggles because nobody could hold on to the ball at Georgia that
Yep.
season. The other thing we kind of talked about was leadership qualities. We're seeing how they kind of worked under pressure. And I think something that we've learned about Carson Beck just from the one game and from the offseason at Miami is, hey, he's got all of the intangibles. He's got all the skill set in terms of his footwork. I mean,
Yep.
those two touch passes that he has where he's shimmying to his left and he throws it to Malachi Tony. And then the other one we all want to talk about with CJ Daniels, where he shifts the other direction
Catch
to,
of the year.
yeah, 2 dimes. So he's got it. We don't have to hear about the Cavender twin drama from Snapchat and all that stuff. Hey, man, if that's what you want to do, I will get you enough Snapchat profiles. If you want to keep doing that, as long as you keep winning games, that's all that matters. And
Yeah.
and I think something that it's really cool to see too is across these past two coaching stats now, you hear about talent that's come in and
Mm-hmm.
they have they all talk about falling in love with football again. And that's something that you heard with Jalen Phillips when, Manny Diaz brought him in from UCLA. Now you're hearing it with Carson Beck. I think that's a great feeling for a program like Miami, where you're recruiting kids out of high school, but at the same time, you're not giving up on the kids that leave the crib, as we like to say.
Yep.
Like I'm sorry, Xavier Lucas, for example,
Yeah.
who they might have gone somewhere else. Maybe they get some buyer's remorse. Maybe they get homesick. Who knows what it is? But they want to come back home, help welcome with open arms, and that's kind of what you're seeing with Carson Beck too. So good to see them fall in love with the game again and have a place to have some fun and play and win.
Yeah. I mean, I think again, I'll go through my SWAT towards the end of this recap. And you're gonna think I'm being like, well, are you straddling both sides of the fence, Chris? But I thought overall, excuse me, Carson Beck played really well last night. There were definitely some points of I don't know about that. I'll get into that later. But overall, I mean, when you talk about a guy who whose receivers like literally led the nation in drops last year, I wrote this note down. I was like, Carson Beck went from having a wide receiver core that led the nation in drops to CJ Daniels making one of the most amazing catches of all time. And like a lot of people are going to say, okay, Chris, like you're blowing it up. Like let's just like look at that play real quick. Like Carson Beck was throwing under duress. It was slightly overthrown where that one safety who was like, "Oh, it's a home game for us." I thought he was going to make that pick. Like when I saw that live, I was like, "God, no." I'm like, this is how it's going to go." Right? So it's slightly overthrown. It's into coverage where there's two DBs. I thought I saw three, but I think when I went back, I only saw two DBs in the area, but still double coverage was wild. Then you have the stretch of the hand, the catch, the touchdown. It's right before the half. I mean, it was like if you ever play Killer Instinct, there was like this thing was like combo breaker, like, and that's what it felt like when he made that catch because like it really shifted the game. I mean, I think that there was like less than a minute left till the half, and I was telling a bunch of my friends going in from the tailgate and walking into the stadium, I was like, it's gonna be probably 28-24 the game, and it's gonna be a 7-0 at halftime. A little off, right trajectory though. You know what I mean? That's where I was feeling, and it was really nice to see Carson Beck manage the game, show that the arm is still great. You know, I think he can prove a little bit on the accuracy with things. You know, the stats would show he did pretty well. I think it was what 20 for 31, 205 yards, average 6.6 yards a throw, two touchdowns with an 84.9 QBR. Those are phenomenal. I mean, again, for a guy who, like I said, everyone said fell off last year, missed the college football playoffs, had surgery, missed spring football again. Phenomenal. I thought it was a great showing against a team that a lot of people think, or maybe before last night thought, was going to make it to the CFP. You know what I mean? Or contend again for a national championship.
Yeah, one thing too on that touchdown catch.
Yeah.
Remember how bad the clock management was right
Oh
before
my
that?
god! Bro, you know what? Let me just
Bailed
jump
it
down.
out.
Let me jump down really quick to that note because I don't want to forget that, and we can get into this too. Lot of questionable calls coaching wise. Not a lot from Mario though. I was proud of Mario that he wasn't, but you're right. That last drive was the only one, and it was just clock management, and it was simple clock management. You know what I mean? Like, and I think he caught himself, you know, after that, and you could tell the pacing changed a little bit off in the fourth quarter, but really questionable calling with the coaches. I mean, I Mike Denbrock and Marcus Freeman, like you've got two guys who, again, I would say are tier A or tier S coaches in their respective fields. You know, Marcus Freeman on the defensive side, Mike Denbrock on the offensive side. You know, what happened last night? What happened with the coaching?
Miami happened, baby. That's what happens. You get into a harsh environment. You're talking about a place that Notre Dame has not won since 1977. They have not beaten Miami in Miami since 1977.
I,
Granted, they don't play every single year, but
no, and I highlighted that in the preview for the game. I was like, listen, let's just all remember Notre Dame has not won since 77, and they don't play well down here for whatever reason. Again, and by the way, hold on, excuse me. Let me correct myself. They don't play well when they play us down here. They may play Penn State well in the Orange Bowl, and they may play teams semi decent in other games down here when they're playing in the Orange Bowl. But when they play Miami, they don't play well. And again, last night, I thought the crowd was amazing. Not as good as 2017. So my peeps that were at the 2017 game, y'all still got the belt. But last night, incredible showing. The place was electric. What I'm a friend of mine, our friend Frank, we were talking about it this morning. We were just
fire Frank.
yeah, fireman Frank. We were talking about it this morning. We were like, they're really honing in on this game experience. Like the intro video gave me goosebumps. It was fire. You know, the fourth quarter, the in between commercial break stuff that they do. They what is the Notre Dame quarterback Book who played in 2017?
Ian Book.
Ian
Yeah.
Book, you know, he said it nonchalantly, but it's kind of a cool little vibe. But he was like, you know, it's a party atmosphere. It felt like a party, and that's what I think UM is really tailoring, and it creates that experience that I think a lot of these newer generation, these younger kids really get hyped for. And it was great to see that kind of an atmosphere, especially when you had, I'm not sure if you know this, but I think there were over 100 recruits in the building last night. Which again, you've got guys like Cooper who's committed to Texas. You had who's that kid from? Do you know the kid that's going to Syracuse that plays? I forgot. I
I've
think Cal.
heard I've
I
heard of
can't.
these guys.
I can't remember
Names
his.
are lost on me. I've been
Yeah,
really stuck on
we got to
identifying
get
species.
Dono on the show. Dono knows all their names. Um, but I mean, again, with a house full of recruits, the vibe was immaculate. The vibe was immaculate. Let's just get into it right away. Let's talk about Miami's offense versus Notre Dame's defense. Miami Notre Dame's Notre Dame. I mean, that's what we're hearing in the national media. I couldn't agree with it more. The physicality was insane. What were your thoughts on Miami's offense versus this stout and proven defense?
Yeah, it was interesting to hear going into it. All the experts were saying that Notre Dame had the advantage defensively, where they would own the trenches and that they had one of the best secondaries in the country.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, they do pretty good in man coverage against Miami's somewhat experienced receiver core. I mean, I think we learned a lot about what Miami has offensively in game one. I think they tried to take away the deep ball, and don't get me wrong, I think Miami had a couple of chances there on some deep shots where they probably will connect later this season. I
Oh,
think they look really good. And Miami, like you mentioned, out physicaled them in the trenches. So that's Mario Cristobal.
yeah, it was very apparent early on. I was really surprised. Again, when I was previewing this game, I said if Notre Dame's going to win this game, CJ Carr needs to be a game manager, which I think he really was. He was a great game management person, but I said they needed to run the ball, and then not only that, but it was on the offensive side of Miami. What I said the key matchup was going to be these inexperienced and young wide receivers, which we all featured, by the way. Uh, Jojo
Jojo
Trader
Trader.
was in there. Malachi Tony obviously had a night. And then CJ Daniels, he's a veteran, but like inexperience in terms of a unit is what I was when I were to say inexperience. That's what I refer to is the unit playing together, the cohesiveness. And like anyone else who pays attention to college football, that cohesiveness between wide receivers, but also wide receivers and quarterbacks is crucial. And so I thought the wide receivers played incredible. And the talk, again, I said this was one of the questions in the preview was, what does this unit look like, compared to these veteran DBs? And the biggest thing that the national media was talking about, and a lot of the big pundits were saying, that Miami's too young and they don't have the guy. You're right. We have some guys. Right? They're like, you don't have the guy. And I'm like, oh, we do. His name's Malachi Tony, one. But don't sleep on CJ Daniels, who, by the way, everyone was like, oh, yeah, this guy from Liberty who couldn't hack it in the SEC. Well, he made the catch of the year last night. And he did some pretty impressive things throughout the night. What was his stats? CJ Daniels was 5 for 46, 9.2 average, and one touchdown, obviously, the touchdown of the night. Again, I told people previewing the team, not just the game, but previewing the game, don't sleep on this wide receiver core. I think, by the way, I don't even think we showed our full hand last night.
No.
I think we'll get into it later. We're talking about that fourth quarter slump a little bit. I think Shane Dawson pulled the reins back. I think he was like, I'm gonna save some of this. I'm gonna keep this stuff in the bag because we still got Florida, we still got FSU. Wow, you know what I mean? Like that was a reverse Uno card. Didn't see that one coming with Alabama. But in terms of Miami's offense, I thought the O line, Inez Cooper. Like Francis Mauigoa gets all the credit, and he deserves it. He's a powerhouse. He's definitely day one top 10 draft pick, 100%. But can we give Inez Cooper some credit? That man was pushing folks like they were nothing.
I want to give that entire line credit because
Yep.
Markel Bell, who was a guy that they picked on a lot last year because he was put into the rotation a little too early because of injuries and didn't really hear his name being called as to blame at all last night. So no, that entire unit deserves a round of applause. And hey, look, when you talk about an Alex Mirabal, Mario Cristobal football team, you're going to be talking about that offensive line. So you expect it now. And I think what was really interesting to watch from Miami, just from a size perspective, Notre Dame is known for having big lines. They usually look like they're going to bully people around. They look like Ohio State. They look like a lot of the Big Ten teams you would see. Miami was big.
Yeah.
Miami was as big as them
I
and
mean,
more physical.
yeah, you use physical. I mean, and that's I was up till probably 2 a.m. like just watching all the instant reactions, and because I want to get a flavor. I want to see what people are saying because
We won
I
a
obviously
basket. We won a
not only Bass, but I try to I try to not be a homer as much. That's why I always wear the black shirt when we have our normal show during the week, and then during the recaps, I'm always going to wear our team shirts because this is when I can bask. But I always try and stay objective to try and like humble myself in these situations. But I saw the same thing that I think a lot of people saw last night, and Miami just out physicaled that team. And again, I'm not sure if Mike Denbrock was like, hey, on this first drive, I mean, let's just jump in. Well, first, no, let me pause and time out real quick because I'm getting way too ahead of myself. We got to also we talked about the O-line, right? Who was phenomenal and just
Yeah.
was pushing bodies, right? And again, another thing I liked about it too is this isn't USF. This isn't, no, sorry, USF and Bethune-Cookman, but like this is a D line that is considerable. Like this is a team that kept up with Ohio State, took down Georgia, took down, I mean, Indiana's whatever, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and Penn State, like this is not a D line that's like small and quick and agile. Like these are powerhouse guys, and Notre Dame prides themselves on that. And we hung with them, if not pushed them. And then I warned everyone about this. I warned everyone. I'm like, our running game, everyone wants to talk about Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price and how good they were going to be this year. And I kept telling people, I'm like, do not sleep on the King Ghidorah monster we got brewing, right? The three-headed beast in our backfield. And I was talking to a guy I was sitting next to, and I was like, this is what's going to happen. They're going to bring Lyle out in the first because he's fast, right? And then they're going to bring out Fletcher and Sharmar, Marty Brown in the second half. And sure enough, it's exactly what we saw. And all three balled out. I don't know who's going to get the ball, to be honest with you, Rudy. Like, I think every game, it's going to be like a rotation. It's going to be like, who has the freshest legs? And then we're going to save the other two for the second half. And then just some guy was like, bro, you can't say that. I was like, pound it down their throat. And the guy was like, that sounds a little perverse. I'm like, it should be. It should, because that's what we should do to every, it's what we should do to every team. And I think that's what we're going to do. People slept on us. And I'm telling you, nothing against Jeremiah Love. I think he's going to be outstanding, but I think our guys can run with anyone. Our running backs.
I 100% agree. And look at the results that happened last night. I mean, Jeremiah Love had 55 yards rushing on 20 something carries. So yeah, Miami did its job. And by the way, they're able to run that much because they were protecting a lead. So
I mean, this is terrible right here. Like looking at the stat line, because I was looking at the stat line last night at halftime, and it was 3 carries for 13 yards at the half. Horrific. Yeah. When you have the number one running back in the country, that's just malpractice. But he finished the night with 10 carries for 33 yards, averaging 3.3 carries. Like when I tell you that is the most pedestrian stat, I probably will guarantee you that's probably the most pedestrian stat he's had in the last 2 years or last year and a half.
Yeah.
Easily. There's no way. There's no way. I mean, and our running backs again, Mark Fletcher and my camera went down. My camera went down. This is live TV. This is what happens. I'm gonna turn this back on really quick. Where were we before I lost my signal and had to give my camera an ice pack because it's clearly too hot in this Florida heat?
The term was pedestrian for Julian, for what's his name?
Jeremiah Love.
Jeremiah Love. I want to say Julian Love, the old player for Notre Dame a couple of years ago. They always got a guy named Love. They always get tough love in Miami.
Yeah. I mean, to me, again, everyone thought Jeremiah Love was going to have a day and that him and Jadarian Price were going to be a two-headed monster. And again, I think we've been, the nation's been put on notice. Okay. Like our running backs are legit. Every week, I think it's going to be a by committee thing. And it had been coming out of camp that Marty Brown was legit and that he actually was probably going to be in the rotation heavily. And I think he showed it last night. I mean, Marty Brown was led second with 15 for 54 yards, averaging 3.6. I mean, I'm not angry. I mean, I think we did a little bit better last year in the run game. But again, this is the first game. It's against Notre Dame. I'm not upset with it. I think the game went pretty much almost as textbook as you could want it to go for as a Miami fan. You know what I mean? Moving over to the real heroes. We mentioned um, Carson Beck, incredible, but we would be idiots and we would be committing malpractice as a podcast if we did not give the game ball to the defense. I mean, the defense was incredible last night. I mean, where do you want to start on the defense? Secondary, D line, edge, like linebackers. What did you think?
Let's start in an unconventional place, and let's start with the reputation from last year,
Yep.
because part of me is thinking that when you ask about what happened with Notre Dame coaches, maybe they got stuck looking at last year's film a little too much and thinking that there couldn't have been as much of an improvement over the course of one off season, because it felt like the scripted series and kind of what they were doing initially was trying to take advantage of what Miami struggled with last year, which was a lot of misdirection, a lot of lateral movement. You saw a lot of like throws underneath, a lot of bubble screens, a lot of tunnel screens, a lot of just random crossing and like movement. And it showed that Miami has retooled this defense, has a lot of new players on its roster, and it's a different defensive philosophy. And they actually communicate now, and they actually, go after the ball. It's like watching older Miami defenses finally. So I would say I'm happy to start there and to say discipline, because I think Notre Dame wasn't trying to play like Notre Dame. I think they were trying to play like just someone who watched a lot of 2024 Miami film and said, all right, here's how we should attack it instead of sticking to our identity.
I think one of two things occurred. And I was thinking about it today while I was at the gym, and I was like, because my first thought was, okay, maybe Mike Denbrock was like, hey, I've got a new quarterback. He's got a lot of potential. He looks really good in the spring in terms of throwing it. Let me build his confidence. And they're all going to anticipate that Jeremiah Love's going to come out and we're going to pound the rock. But why don't we do the inverse? And to Mike Denbrock's credit, those quick little screens to the outside, they've hurt us in the past. Last year, the year before, especially when we didn't have talent on the outside, we got caught up a lot in those quick bubble screens that they would do. So I think either Mike Denbrock was trying to get crafty and was like, hey, let's build some confidence with CJ Carr and get him throwing the ball and catch Miami off guard, because they're going to think we're going to pound the ball, and then go back to Jeremiah Love once CJ Carr's gotten his confidence. But the other thing I'm also wondering, which was my initial thought, which was, did Miami have a defensive front four that just Notre Dame completely didn't expect and underestimated? And then they saw within the first drive, like not even first drive, I would say the first 4 plays, hey, these guys are getting serious penetration, and our guys aren't moving that line forward. We need to get the ball out quick, because to CJ Carr's credit, I mean, he was releasing it in under 3 seconds every play in that first drive. Like, he was quick. He had a quick release for a freshman, a true freshman starter. You know what I mean? So do you think it was more along the lines that they were trying to get crafty and get CJ Carr credit, like get CJ Carr comfortable in a hostile environment? Or do you think it was they underestimated Miami's D line and they were like, we just need to get the ball out because these guys are penetrating us?
Yeah, I think they were trying to protect their quarterback a little bit. I think they were saying, hey, look, we know what we saw in film, and if we can get them a little confused running laterally, we can get the ball out quickly, give our playmakers a chance to do something in open space, hoping that there was actually open space out there. And I think a message was sent pretty quickly when that initial turnover happened, where tunnel screen gets blown up. It's a defensive lineman that's coming at you. Like, Miami moved with speed. They moved with intensity. I think they showed that they're extremely improved from last year. And I think also, if you look back at like previous Notre Dame games, so that 2017 game that comes to mind that we were all at, that was, the greatest game of our lives in Hard Rock. That was an undersized defensive line that was getting penetration because they were pulling some stunts, they were slipping, they were swimming, they were running a lot of blitz packages. This was a Miami team that just lined up
Yep.
man to man and said, we're going to beat you. We don't need to do a bunch of funny little stunts. We don't need to do a bunch of different things. We just have to be more physical. And watching what Ruben Bain did, what Hakeem Mesidor did, that was incredible to see. So 3 and 4 on the ends are going to be, if they can stay healthy, they're likely going to be a problem for everybody because that's one of the better offensive lines that they'll see all season.
Yeah, I thought Hakeem the Dream and Ruben Bain were studs. Justin Scott, I mean, golf clap to that guy. Incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, that whole D line, David Blay from Louisiana Tech. I
Mhm.
told you guys that guy was for real. Guy, I mean, stellar along the D line. I want to marinate though on this because again, I think this almost overshadows Miami's victory. Is just what were they doing offensively? Why was Jeremiah Love not a factor? Because if you take, I was talking to someone else last night after the game, and I was saying, you could take the first drive for both Miami and Notre Dame, and then take the last drive by Notre Dame and say, that's the game. Like if you were like, how did this game go? I would say, watch Notre Dame's first drive, watch Miami's first drive, and then watch the final drive that Notre Dame tries to make. And that those 3 drives will tell you everything you need to know in this game. Miami's first drive went all the way down the field. We asserted our dominance. You could see it. Notre Dame's first drive, I mean, the first 3 plays were all passing plays. I mean, they did not run it once. I mean, they got a first down to their credit. Congratulations. But I mean, they didn't lean on Jeremiah Love till the 4th quarter. And that is just, again, to me, that's coaching malpractice. I mean, even let's just say you're Mike Denbrock and you're like, I want to get crafty. I think you have to. You just pound the rock. And then you get crafty. Like, show your dominance. That's what you are. And Notre Dame got away from that. I'm not understanding why. Why do you think they got away from that?
Yeah, and I don't know if there's overthinking it or not because it's not like, they had to make a comeback in the second half. That first half of not
Mm-hmm.
having that run game though you think it would be, it wasn't like they were playing from behind in this like insurmountable
Yeah.
deficit. We throwing the ball over the place. So that is interesting to see. You would think that a team would be more seasoned to running the ball. I just honestly, I think that sometimes these guys overthink it. I think they're just trying to. Everyone knows what tendencies look like on film, even though it's a brand new season. You just look back at what they've done previously. At the team that competed for the national championship last year, you think they're going
Yeah.
to stick to their bread and butter. And I mean, unless they just respected what Miami was going to do defensively, unless they expected them to come out extremely aggressive and just sell out on the run, and think that they would catch them catch them with their pants down basically defensively because the secondary was a big problem for Miami last year.
Yeah.
What I can think of is that they really wanted to try to see if Miami was improved. Show us that you fixed your things that were wrong in the offseason.
And I
And
think,
Miami showed.
yeah. And I think CJ Carr, by the way, kudos to him. I think for a true freshman in a hostile environment in his first start, he played pretty well, pretty decent. But you could also tell that was a true freshman playing in a hostile environment. There were decisions, there was play calls that you're like, yeah, that's a rookie mistake. That's a freshman mistake. That's just not things. And there were moments where he looked really rattled and he looked like he was not comfortable underthrowing the ball, throwing behind his receivers, too low, too high. I mean, you name it, he was everywhere but on target. And there were times where he locked in. Like some of those QB draws I thought were great. Makes me a little worried about our linebacker room for a bit because like there were some busted coverages there. I thought his escape to score that one touchdown was phenomenal. Again, props to. I'm not going to sit here and say we destroyed Notre Dame. That's not what it was at all. It didn't feel like that at all. It felt. This is a weird thing. It was like one of those things where you have to kind of like wrestle with the tension of the game as it was going on because going into the towards the end of the 3rd quarter, we're up 21-7. It didn't feel like we were up 21-7, but it did at the same time. Does that sound weird? Does that like I'm not sure how it was like watching the game at home, but like in the stadium, it felt at any moment Notre Dame could get their legs underneath them and make that comeback, which they did. But at the same time, I felt like that was only because Miami let off the gas. You know what I mean?
As someone who wasn't at the game but was watching it from a from a fishing club award ceremony and trying to be quiet, and then getting to watch the fourth quarter from the hotel. It was weird because with the lead, I didn't feel like nervous at all, but at the same time, I didn't feel surprised that Notre Dame was going to somehow claw their way back into
Yep.
this. It was just a matter of the confidence of watching Miami's offense execute over the course of the game. Yeah, they stumbled a little bit in that fourth quarter because they're just playing conservatively, but it felt like maybe it was just from watching the offense perform last year. We can get points when we need to, and it just felt like, okay, the game's tied. Cool. We're going to go down there and kick a field goal. We're going to go down there and score a touchdown. It's just how much time do we leave on the clock for Notre Dame to come back? It was one of those where I was hoping more for a walk-off situation, maybe bleed a little bit more clock by either staying in bounds or running the ball for a first down and short yardage. But it never felt like the game was, once we were up 21-7, it felt like we kind of had enough to hold on for the win if we
Yeah.
can just clock and pound the ball, which is I think what
Yep.
Mario Cristobal mentality wants. I don't think he wants a Cam Ward offense to have to put up 40 points to win. I think he would love to play with a 14-point lead and say, we're gonna close this out. Hopefully not in such a dramatic fashion, but close it out.
Yeah, I thought for me, it felt like playing spades with someone and you knew they had like a few spades, they had an ace and a few suits, and you're like, okay, if they play these cards right, they can win a few books, they could come back. And that was that's what it felt like towards the end of the third quarter. And you saw them do that with Jeremiah Love leaning on that. And again, like that guy was running his heart out. Like props to him hurdling. I mean, that guy was hitting the triangle or the Y if you play Xbox the entire time, just spamming that button. I'm like, all right. I'm like, how many times in the air? You're gonna lose a knee, bro. You're gonna lose half your torso midair and get slammed to the floor. But yeah, there was like a quiet confidence, and to me, that's why I said my going into the fourth quarter, I felt like Mario could have and Shane Dawson could have opened up the playbook. But as you and I are talking right now, I'm starting to think that it wasn't so much ineptitude or second guessing, but more strategic in the sense that I think Mario and Shane saw the writing on the wall, saw the physical dominance by us over them, and was like, we don't necessarily need to open the playbook that much anymore. Let's just do what we do, drain this clock, maybe get another field goal, on the board, and then just ride the W out. I just was that fourth quarter for Miami was a little off. What did that look like to you back at home?
The one thing that I did notice, and I didn't want to be too critical of Carson back at the beginning of the show, but I think something that this is probably timely to mention it, is I think his initial read for some things we're doing offensively is more likely than not the right call, and I think he's
Yeah,
holding the ball. But so
I
I've
agree.
noticed this in the half. I was talking to a couple of my coworkers who were watching the game with us because we got 3 Miami fans, thankfully, over at my work, but one thing we all noticed was middle of the field was wide open with our tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
Even like a couple of the triple receiver
Bauman.
sets.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Bowman and then also
Bauman was open in a
Elijah
few
Lott.
plays I saw, yeah.
Yeah, so like there were a few where like when we threw the corner fade, for example, like it wasn't even like to the back of the end zone. It was that one that went to the front pylon where their defensive back like looked like he hurt his shoulder or something like that early in the game. If you watch that over, you've got a tight end seam that is like wide open. I'm waiting for him to pull the Arroyo and wave his arm, saying like, "Yo, right here, bud, right here." And I was expecting them maybe to come back to that in the second half. And I thought maybe that would be something that maybe would help us move the ball a little bit more offensively in the fourth quarter. But at the end of the day, it looked like we were definitely holding some things back. I mean, we've done this over
Yeah.
the years, and when you play big competition at the beginning of the year, you don't want to open up the entire playbook. That's something that I think we'll talk about later in this show about opening up your playbook a little too early. But yeah, I think it was just them probably running some stuff that they did in the first half and just not hitting on it the way that it could have hit from before.
Yeah, let's talk about the secondary really quick too, because I thought they played lights out. I mean, not perfect. There was definitely some communication issues, which were the 2 scores. Like the 2 touchdowns, the one where CJ Carr dipped out, waggled out, got out of that sack and hit up that, I forgot, was he a tight end? I don't even know.
I don't
Uh,
know. It was just some guy who was sitting by himself.
yeah, he was by himself. I'm like, why is he by himself? Like that is just no. And then the play that they scored, I believe it was in the very beginning of the fourth quarter, that they went out to the right and he just dipped it to him. That, and you could just tell, like the secondary was like, hey, where were you?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was like, where were you? But other than those 2 plays, I thought the secondary was lights out. I thought they kept up with those wide receivers. I mean, Malachi Fields, like from Virginia, definitely worth the transfer. Definitely whatever Notre Dame's paying him, worth it, But I still think he covered all. I think our secondary had, I mean, Jacoby Thomas, that guy was like you. I am so pumped to have Jacoby Thomas on our team. Like you hear about it. Obviously, you and I were you're casuals. We don't get to go to the practices or anything like that. But you heard that coming out of camp. You heard Jacoby Thomas. He's fierce. He's got that hit stick ability. And bro, you could just see every play getting the secondary, getting the defense riled up. Let's go. I mean, he was incredible.
Yeah, I think they did a great job in press coverage. I think the fact that they have the confidence in letting them press and they're playing man against a lot of these guys was indicative of what they can do. And at the same time, just that we're talking about 2 coverage busts for 2 scores. I mean, we look back to last year, that was 2 drives consistently.
Oh yeah,
That was back-to-back drives where they would do that over and over again. We're talking about a team that blew a 21-0 lead at Syracuse. So it's, I think we can obviously nitpick all we want, but I think if we're going to talk about 2 busts in this day and age in college football, where usually you have to score, 28 plus to win, usually you have to score over 30 to win in this day and age in college football. I'm really happy with what that was.
Yeah, I thought they played, and I think it's what's really indicative. And what if you were like, well, how would you like figure out like the secondary played well? I'm like, look at the last drive for Notre Dame. Like CJ Carr could not get the ball out. He didn't know who to go to. It was just they were swarming, and I mean, props. I mean, the fact that it's taken us 30 plus minutes to get to say this man's name, we're terrible people. But Corey Heatherman, yeah, my God, that man drew up a great game plan. I mean, Corey Heatherman, MVP too. I mean, give him another game ball too. I mean, that defense, I mean, everyone teased us about it last night. It was mentioned in almost every podcast and every reaction I watch. If this was Miami of last year, this would have been blah, blah, blah. But if Corey Heatherman wasn't our DC, it would have I mean, any other person, I think it probably would have gone to last year. I think we would have dropped the game, especially towards that comeback that they were having in the second half going into the fourth quarter. Corey Heatherman just locked down game plan. I thought it was chef's kiss.
Yeah, I mean, they did a great job of contesting, and talk about how they're going to be physical, how they're going to be, in your face. And I think the 2 turnovers that we had, look, we almost had a 3rd turnover. I think looking at the form tackling that's changed, specifically about how they go for the ball now. Mm-hmm. You're watching how there's a helmet on the ball. There's always a hand coming in to punch a ball out while they're also wrapping up and tackling. I mean, there was that goal line where Notre Dame ended up scoring, but there was one guy in the backfield, that ball is turned over too, and Miami might put the game away earlier. I think the ball hawking tendencies of those guys in the secondary, where you had 3 people touch the ball before Ruben Bain, or 2 people touched the ball before Ruben Bain intercepted it off of the guy's foot.
Yeah, that was so
good. I'm seeing it on the laptop. Jen tells me, we're watching the replay behind me, and she goes, that went off his foot, right? No, it didn't. And look back, and they're like, oh, literally like hacky sack is what it looked like.
That's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah,
a bicycle, like a bicycle kick, hacky sack, like to a. And it's funny. I was telling Riza, my wife, I was telling her, like, I was like, who intercepted that ball, right? She's like, oh, I'm like, a lineman who was literally. And that, you want to talk about hustle? That's, again, it's these little things that the national media and people who don't cover the team are not going to know or pay attention to. But like you and I, people who are really immersed, went to school, love this team. That stuff right there, those are just like little things that you're just like, I like that. That's different. Because like Ruben Bain, what should not have been in the position he was in to get that interception. But the hustling, the getting to the ball, Corey Heatherman stressed this all camp. He was like, our focus is get to the ball. Get to the ball. Everyone get to the ball. I don't care who you are. Everyone's got to get there. And you saw that in that interception. I thought that was great. Rudy, let's jump into a SWOT real quick. If you guys don't know at home, I want to close and kind of organize these recaps with a SWOT, which is your strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Give me some of your strengths, Rudy, coming out of this game for Miami.
A strength coming out of this game is health, because you didn't lose anybody.
That's
a good thing. An immediate improvement from last year, because don't get me wrong, Miami, for how awful that defense was last year, coming out of the UF game where we absolutely stomped the Gators in Canesville, as we like to call it, we did have a couple of injuries, one of them including Ruben Bain. So coming out of this game with everybody healthy is great. So I'll put that as a strength to start. Your trenches are a strength, offensive and defensive lines.
Yep, I said the same thing.
Your secondary is a strength as of right now. Playing against a team that is similarly built to you. So what we know right now is a team that's built for running the ball and is more of like a pro set style of offense. It's hard to say that now, but I guess it's still kind of pro set where you're running 3 wide receivers, 4 receivers, and you're also playing a lot of power football. Miami matches up really well against them. We don't know what it looks like when you play a team that runs 5 wide receivers and tries to get 100 plays off and is
A
snapping
lot
the
of trip
ball with
sets.
like,
Did you notice that last night? Ton of trip sets. Ton of trip
Yep.
sets.
Yep. So that's a strength. Offensively, playing a possession style football game, you're trying to win time of possession, win. I think what we know is we knew with the Cam Ward offense, Miami could only hold the ball as long as they had a lead. You can't really play possession football unless you just want to try to keep it within 7 points because you're trying to get your guys rested. Right now, offensively, we know that we can grind out drives. Look at what they did to start the second half, where Miami held the ball for 7 minutes and cashed in with a touchdown. That was a huge, moment in the game.
And Miami won the time of possession, 33 minutes to 26 minutes. So it's like it wasn't even, it wasn't a contest. Miami clearly had the ball, and those bleeding drives were absolutely crucial to this game plan.
Yep. So those are my strengths for right now.
Yeah, I had.
Yeah.
Go ahead, any more? I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. That's what I got for now.
Yeah, so I'm with you, man. I am I said our defense as a whole, super strength again. And again, I think it was Ari Wasserman from Andy and Ari who was like, this was a good defense, but they look like a great defense because of how bad and terrible our defense was last year. And I would agree to a certain extent. Was it a perfect defense? Absolutely not. But it was a really good defense. And compared to last year's is a great defense. So that was what I think. Line, obviously. I mean, again, this is a Mario Cristobal like trait, and it's what he does. He builds from the lines and up, but you're seeing it. And again, it's the first game of the season. We're not going to get too crazy with it and say we're winning the Natty, but you're starting to see a groundswell, and now we're collecting receipts of Mario is building something here. And people have been saying, this is Mario's best team. We're going to wait. I said game 4. I said by game 4, we're going to know where this team's at realistically by the end of game 4. But I think last night was a great indicator, and just the way the game went to what Mario's building. I thought Malachi Toney, huge strength. We went from having no receivers, and I told everyone, I kept saying Malachi, and it's not just because that's my firstborn son's name. I believe in this kid. I'm telling you, they don't call him Baby Jesus for nothing, right? He's Baby Jesus for a reason. Stud. I think he's gonna have a breakout year like Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith last year. The 3-headed running back room. Again, when you don't know if you have wide receivers, even though we do, and you have a iffy quarterback in a Carson Beck, I think when you have 3 studs in a stable of running backs that literally, if you told me Lyle's going to start today, cool. If you told me, Fletcher starting, okay, duh, water's wet. Now, if you tell me Marty Brown is starting, I'm like, cool, awesome, sounds great. I'm like, I'm not sweating anything. This, again, and I said this in the preview a couple weeks ago, this running back room, maybe not talent-wise, but I think in terms of what they're going to produce, is a lot like those early 2000s running back room, where you're like, we can go 3 deep, and you're not gonna see a drop off. Like it's gonna be running down your throat every game. I think unless we lose a game, I easily see us putting at least 200 yards on the ground. What do we put up this game? Let me see really quick, just so I don't look like a complete idiot.
We put on like 130 something or 120 something. Remember, we kind of like
127. I would, okay, because let's all keep this in perspective right here. Let's not forget this was considered to be the best team we're going to play, specifically defensive line wise. Probably one of the best teams we're going to play. We don't know about FSU. They look pretty good against Alabama, and we don't know what Florida's going to produce. But either way, If this is the best and we still got 127, what are we going to do to Bethune-Cookman? What are we going to do to USF? What are we going to do to Syracuse? Like Syracuse got bludgeoned by Tennessee. I was way off on that one, by the way. I thought it was gonna be much closer. Bludgeon. Like Virginia Tech, same thing. When you saw what Lenore Sellers did, and like again, I can see us easily putting up over 150 to 200 yards every game with those three guys.
Yeah,
100%.
and I think what you saw from the running game too is they were running in very, very obvious scenarios where even the Notre Dame defense was trying to sell out and play the run exclusively. So it's one of those things where they're churning out, 3-4 yards a carry, and those are hard runs to try to get through and make happen. That's just all about killing clock, trying about wearing down that defense. So for them, it's not going to look sexy, but it's going to get the job done. And I think what's nice too is with the way the running back room looks right now is I think you're starting to see a shift in personalities where I think now you're seeing a lot of guys start to, they're getting into their heads and they're being convinced now that you don't need the number of carries like an Ashton Genty would get to be on a draft board and to look like you're an NFL talent. I mean, I think you could look back at some of those running rooms where you have really, really good production across 3 or 4 guys and know that you're going to stay healthy because you're not carrying the ball 40 or 50 times a game. You're going to be sharing the load. You're going to be getting it with worn out defenses.
Yeah. What happened?
Where's Mama?
She
It's
went
not
to
a
get her hair done.
Cooper.
Oh, and Aiden needs.
With the strengths out of the way and all the technical difficulties we're having out of the way, including my children, let's move over to some weaknesses, or I don't like to call them weaknesses so much as areas of concern. So you may be like, oh, I didn't see any weaknesses. What are some of your maybe then areas of concern that you saw after last night?
I mean, areas of concern, special teams. We'll start there. I know it was a wet field and wet ball, and it might be hard for a hold, but let's just say there's one question mark that we don't know yet. And thankfully, we've had every kickoff go out the back of the end zone. I think if you're Mario Cristobal, you've probably made that an edict to your entire team that said, if the ball does not end up 5 yards or further into the end zone, you're running wind sprints until you vomit.
Yep. We're snaking it, boys. We're snaking the field.
The best way to not worry about your iffy kickoff coverage is if you just boot the ball out the back of the end zone. So my area of concern right now is whether there is kickoff coverage that exists. And secondly, it's just, that could have been a momentum shift for Miami. The fact that they were able to, overcome that early mistake and not let it bother them is, A+ in my book. That would have gotten us to 30 points. So it could have been a 30-24 win, which could have looked even sexier. So I'm happy with how that works. I think other areas of concern, I don't have one yet with the offense, except for maybe just first read awareness from Carson Beck. Maybe just saying hey, not having to worry about holding onto that ball for your option number 2. Sometimes you just take option 1, and option 1 is the right one because that was the initial play design. And then the third area of concern is probably, look, we didn't give up as many points as we have, but I think there was 1 or 2 instances outside of the secondary miscommunicating in pass coverage, but just setting the edge again. There were a couple of different plays where they allowed, some plays out of the backfield where it's all we have to do is just set the edge, and we don't do that, or we over pursued on 1 or 2, pressures around the edge, and we just, open it right up. So that's where my areas of concern are, only in the sense of we had similar concerns in week 1 against Florida. Was it a one-off game thing, or is it going to be a systemic problem in philosophy? We don't know yet after 1, but we could just say, hey, we can put the asterisk down and say we saw this here to start.
Yeah, for me, sticking with Carson Beck, not a weakness. Again, I give him all the credit in the world. I thought he looked overall well. I, though, am a little bit picky with my quarterbacks, and I tried my best not to compare him to Cam Ward. And so I'm not. But there were some balls thrown. He went for 20 for 31. I would say of those 11 throws, they were very concerning. And even one of his completions, the one to CJ Daniels, very concerning. Because, again, the difference between really good teams and teams like us last year is consistency, right? You don't have one of these 50-50 balls where it's oh, if the ball would have bounced that way, that would have been an L for us. Like, that's what happened to us last year. We had a lot of luck on our side, and there was a lot of 50-50 balls that didn't bounce, that bounced our way in the beginning of the season, not so much towards the end. And the teams like Ohio State and Oregon and Penn State and your typical blue bloods that are making it to the CFPs, they're pretty consistent in their play, right? They may not be the best quarterback or the best running back, but they're going to give you this every time, and they're gonna hold on to the ball, or the safeties will lock down. Carson Beck, there were some throws, and even the ones he made. I mean, you go back and watch them. By the way, the 2 touchdown plays he threw were not dimes. The throw to Malachi Toney was slightly behind him. If you look and you watch it, it was slightly behind him. If you look at CJ Daniels' pass, way over his head, sailing, right? Carson Beck did that a lot, and all of those missed. If anyone goes back and watches all of Carson Beck's throws, you'll see what I'm talking about. There was a third down that he threw to Malachi Toney that was really questionable. It was low and in a double coverage that I was like, I'm not liking that. And then, to your point, holding on to the ball a little too long and not using his legs. He used his legs, but there were moments where the pocket was collapsing. I'm like, just go. Just go. Don't throw it. And you could tell he wanted to throw it, but I was just like, just go. And that's what I loved about Cam Ward last year. Cam Ward, he knew. He was like, nope, once that collapsed, I'm gone. And I'm going to do my 2-step and do my jig outside. You know what I mean? Like, walk outside slowly. But I think if Carson can kind of tune that in, reel it back in and figure out, okay, I don't need to be a hero. Cause I think there were moments last night, the pressure was not getting to him, but he knew, okay, I need to fit this in here, or let me try and fit it in here. And it's like, I don't think you need to do that, man. Just again, Carson Beck doesn't need to be Cam Ward. He just needs to be a game manager. And no one is expecting him to pull these miraculous throws out of his back. Just manage the game. So that was one of my areas of concern. Another one, while our linebackers had some pretty good numbers, Popo Aguirre had 6 tackles. Who else? Torre had 4. Besaint had 3. I just felt like there wasn't enough linebacker pressure in the game. I felt like our D-line and our secondary were more of a factor than the linebackers. Again, I'm not saying the linebackers were useless and they didn't play. They were great. I love our linebacker room. But I was just like, for what I was hearing from Mo Torre, the leveling up I was expecting from Besaint to come through, I was expecting a little bit more. And so I'm just like, all right, what are we going to do? And in those plays, a lot of the plays where they scored or got those conversions, our linebackers were just not, what did I put? They were out of place and missing assignments. You could just tell there was just like, especially that one CJ Carr to tie the game, like right up the middle. Where were you guys? You know what I mean? That was like, but again, week 1 playing against a great team. I think we can tighten that stuff up, especially going into Bethune-Cookman, going into USF. I think we'll be ready for UF, but just want to pay attention to that. This is a area of concern, but I'm going to transition also because I think it's also an opportunity. Our tight ends. Elijah Lofton, 1 target, 1 catch. That's just, I feel like, I mean, they use him in other roles, which is great. I'm not sure if you saw they were using him as a fullback a lot and in the backfield, which I thought was awesome because that throws people off. But I was just like, for someone coming in like a Carson Beck, who was basically, best friends with McConkey and Bowers. That's his bread and butter. He's like Tom Brady. He likes his tight ends. You got tight ends. Use them.
It makes me wonder if that was part of the scheme too, to say like, hey, we're going to break some tendencies, because you're right. I think the 1 target was great. Where was that? I have to go back and look, because I don't know if you had defenders that were kind of collapsing on a tight end running a route. I mean, look, the tight ends that we thought about was that seam route in the first quarter, like that one that we had for 3. And you're thinking this is the missed field goal. That was the same drive where you had this guy running wide open over the middle. That's easy 6. And it's something that you would have seen probably from, different quarterbacks and from Carson Beck at Georgia, because like you said, those were his best friends. It seemed like there were no other receivers on the field, and it was just quarterback and tight end. So I don't know if it's just overthinking it or just thinking, oh, well, I got to show people that I don't throw to just tight ends. that could throw the ball down the field. But I feel good about that being fixed, mostly because if you look at the offensive system from last year too, we were like Oprah with tight ends. It's like you get a tight end, you get a tight end, everybody gets a tight end. We had like 4 tight ends. We had Cam McCormick, we had Elijah Arroyo, we had Elijah Lofton, you name it, Riley Williams. That we had so many different tight ends that we were running trips with tight ends exclusively. So yeah, I wonder if it's just kind of finding a rhythm there where it's like the one guy who was part of the rotation is now going to be the featured guy if they're just trying to figure out how they want to make that work. And like you said, the fact that he's going to be blocking, he's going to be lead blocking, he's going to be doing different things in the offense in that way, it should be interesting to see how they want to divvy up the possession to give him enough passing attempts versus his run blocking.
Yeah, so I think opening up the playbook with tight ends is an opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity for us to get better. I think another opportunity is these wide receivers, right? Like, I mean, we played against probably, I can't think of another secondary that's probably going to be touted better than Notre Dame. I mean, they have super seniors on their team, seniors, the guys who played in the national championship, guarding our wide receivers. Again, you should progress and hopefully get better. The game should slow down for a lot of these younger guys. I mean, I think that's a great opportunity as our wide receiving room and our wide receiver core getting better. What do you think?
You're talking about a secondary at Notre Dame who last year had to defend Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah.
Like their last game was against one guy who's going to be in the league soon and the other guy who's already in the league. So I think that says something about your receiver core and what they were able to do. And yeah, I think they tried taking away the deep ball, and you saw, we did some short range routes. We did a couple of intermediate routes. I don't think we did as much intermediate as we could have, but beggars can't be choosers at this point. I'm happy we got the win, but I'm excited to see where they go from here, because like you said, that was probably the best coverage they're going to see all year. We'll see what happens in October up in Tallahassee. If that secondary ends up, they don't really have another test between now and the game with us. So we'll see how healthy they stay and whether that ends up being a physical battle, because it's a rivalry game. I'm sure they'll let it go. So that'll be their next test.
Yeah. Before we move on to some threats, any other opportunities you wanted to highlight or think of?
I'll say big plays. I'll say quick strike, I think, is an opportunity for me. I think what we saw was they didn't have to really do it in this game.
Right.
Obviously, they never had to play from behind. That was something that I think was really cool for Miami.
That's a very great point, yeah.
Played with a lead and only played with a tie for, I think they got on the board early in the second quarter. So the first quarter was entirely tied. It wasn't tied in the fourth quarter until we got into the final 2 minutes or so, 2.5 minutes. So you're talking about 17 minutes of a 60-minute game where the score was tied and everything else was Miami with the lead. So it would be interesting to see what they can do if they want to try to dial up a quick chunk play or a big play.
Yeah, moving over to threats. I put Carson Beck in his accuracy in terms of, or just his play decision, which I think is you put it perfect, was the way, is just like, what's his read, right? Is he going to the first read, and what is his first read? Because I think it should be now Malachi Tony. But the biggest threat, it's the easiest one, play calling in the fourth quarter. What was that? Taking the foot off the gas. Like, again, I'm not sure. Is this let's keep some cards in the bag? Is this, I just want to be, conservative and run the clock out and rely on our players? I just, there was something up with that fourth quarter play calling, and you could just tell there was a shift even in the stadium, that we were like, what is happening? What's going on? And that, to me, I don't want to see us go up on a team 21-7 and then them claw their way back. That just, to me, is unacceptable. It gives me PTSD from Syracuse. Reminds me a lot of the Georgia Tech also game and the Virginia Tech and Cal games. Like those 4 games are just games that we looked dominant, we should have won, and we didn't. Maybe minus Georgia Tech, but just gave me a little PTSD that fourth quarter.
Yeah. I guess in terms of, one more threat would be, we didn't see it against Notre Dame, but it's something that hurt us last year, and probably another test to see probably maybe when we get to USF, this will probably be something that we could look for and use as a preview. But tempo, just to wonder how the defense kind of deals with tempo and with up tempo offenses. We didn't really see it. I think being ahead of the chains essentially for defense to have them in second and long, third and long, getting some tackles for loss. I think that really helped Miami in that sense. If they end up giving up some decent yardage on a first down play or something like that, I want to know if they've fixed that. That's the only thing I think we don't know just yet because of it's just one game in the year and playing a team that doesn't run up tempo.
Yeah. I think another thing, just because the two quarterbacks that will be playing will have this, and three actually, not I think Kyron Drones. I think a threat would be dual threat quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think CJ Carr was able to be a little shifty when he shouldn't have been. And again, I don't know whether that was just, missing, being in the wrong place, the wrong time for our linebackers, or not setting the edges with our edge guys on the D line. But we got to watch out for some dual threat quarterbacks. Not that we've ever been stellar as a program against dual threat quarterbacks. That's not our thing. That's always been our Achilles tendon. But when your two main rivals, your in-state rivals, have dual threat quarterbacks, and then your other rival in Virginia Tech has a dual threat quarterback and ran pretty effectively against South Carolina, that could be a threat. I just like to see us lock that down a little bit too.
Totally agree. I mean, that's one problem with man coverage is that you're looking at your receivers, you got your back turned to the quarterback, and if they see that, cool, open space in the middle, they're going to run.
All right, Rudy. Well, we got this game in the books, right? This one's done. Is there anything you want to talk about? Anything else you would want to bring up? Like, let's do a little bonus coverage. You know what I mean? Like, let me see if we can. Let's see what we can.
I want to be a little looking for. Not spicy. I guess I want to do a hot take real quick. I got a hot take on this big upset that happened in Tallahassee.
Let's go. I want to do a hot take for the year. I want to do like my 10 hot takes after week 1.
Oh, geez.
Go ahead, but give me. Let's start. No. I'll give you some. I don't know if I have 10, but let's just talk about the game you want to talk about, because I have some opinions on it myself too.
Because don't get me wrong, I think Josh Pate put it pretty well of saying we don't know if that Florida State team is for real or not. We don't know if Alabama is for real. Just from watching the game, I got to watch it like early in the second quarter. I watched it early in the second quarter all the way through the rest of the game. And the one thing that kept sticking out to me was, are we sure this was Alabama, Florida State to start the year? Because it gave me the vibes of the Miami, Florida game from last year, where it's like you think you have these two big programs that are placing expectations. And I texted you this after that game was over. Maybe while it was still going on, Alabama looks like a 6-win football team at best if they play the way that they did. And it's not to give anything away from Florida State. Like, they did everything that you're supposed to do to win a game like that at home. They played with intensity. They played with fire. They played up tempo. They did everything that you're supposed to win. The thing for me that I'm not really sold on is the body language of the Alabama offense.
Yeah.
Trying to act looked really bad. And as Miami guys who have watched subpar, mediocre football for the better part of 20 years, we know what it looks like when a team doesn't look prepared, looks lazy, looks uninspired, looks like they're just going through the motions. And that was Alabama.
Yeah.
That was 100% Alabama.
Yeah. I was telling a guy I was sitting next to last night, I'm like, listen, this is a big hot take. This is my first hot take. I think we're watching Alabama do what we did in 2004, 2005. I think you're going to start seeing a precipitous decline in that program, and they're going to go back. Again, I might be wrong, and I might be triggering every Bama fan. Bring it on in the comments. This is my hot take. That's the intention of this, right? But yeah, just watching that game, it didn't look like a Bama team. I mean, again, first, I'm going to do something that I think it's respectful for the rivalry, but I think FSU looked great. I mean, they looked like, if you're telling me we're playing them next week, I'm genuinely worried compared to what I was before the season started. Before the season started, I was like, I'm not worried. We're going into Tallahassee. We're taking these guys out. Now, between their defense playing as strong as they played, and then on top of that, because Ty Simpson looks terrible. And then when I was, when you talk it through with people, you remind yourself, oh, yeah, he had to start behind Bryce Young and missed out those 2 years or a year, whatever, however many years Bryce Young started. Then he missed the 2 years that Milton played. It's like, I don't think this guy was really that good, period. Again, nothing against this guy, but he's very TVD. Like, he gave me TVD vibes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he could have a breakout and come through in certain moments, but like overall, not that great. Not a good quarterback. Kind of like I'm almost like, he's very reminiscent of too, to kind of to give an illusion to what like Bama players, a Mac Jones or who's the guy who has his podcast? It's on ESPN. What's his name?
Oh, McElroy? Greg McElroy?
Greg McElroy. Like Greg McElroy and Mac Jones were not these phenomenal, like Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Obviously, I mean, just the jury's still out on Mac Jones, but we know McElroy is hosting podcasts and not playing in the NFL. So that's why, but like this is what Ty Simpson kind of gives me up. But the problem is now I'm wondering, does Bama have the studs in the specialist positions like those two quarterbacks did to remain competitive in the SEC?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan Williams was kind of like your saving grace, and he had an awful game against Florida State. They got in his head.
Horrible. I went from like loving watching Bama crumble because I was like, there's so many good things in like our group chat. I was like, there's so many good things that are coming out of this game. I'm like, one, Florida State's going to come in to our game super overconfident, and they're going to be like, oh, we big dick energy, we got this. And then two, I'm like, Bama is losing. I'm like, could we get Ryan Williams? Like, could he be over this again? And then I like by the end of the game, I was like, no, Bama, you can keep at Ryan Williams. I was like, no, I don't, because he played terrible. Like I mean, what happened something happened last year towards the end of the year because he wasn't too big of a factor towards the end of the year either, or as dominant, but something happened after that Georgia game last year to now that just, I'm not understanding whether it's Ryan Williams doesn't like the play calling. He maybe really just looked good maybe in the beginning of last season. Just this is who he really is. But like, he's not the same Ryan Williams he was in the first couple of games last year. And I'm just not, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And you know who else had a really rough weekend too? Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you have a marquee guy, they're just going to focus on you. They're going to try to shut you down and say, okay, beat us with somebody else. Beat us with a different player. They're going to hit you at the line. They're going to double cover you. They're going to hit you after every single play.
I mean, Jeremiah Smith looked heated, towards that. I mean, luckily they won, but I was like, man, it'd be really great. Texas beats Ohio State. I'm like, all the cards. I'm like, come on, transfers. I'm like, we won all. We'll take all of you. We'll take every single one of you. But yeah, the Alabama game, it gave me, yes, I think you hit the nail on the head with it. Very reminiscent of last year's Florida UM game, but it also, I think, is highlighting a point, which is my hot take is I think Bama's going to be not that great of a team. I don't think they're going to contend for the SEC. I mean, unless again, it's week one. We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater yet. We will call spades spades. Because you're right. Could this have just been, a team that walked in thinking they were just going to like go through the motions, wipe the floor with a 2-10 team and beat them? Or is this really who they are? And you got to kind of accept that like Kalen DeBoer is not Nick Saban and he's not going to get his players up for these kind of games. Cause like, that's almost what it felt like. It kind of just felt like Bama didn't want to get up for FSU. Like, and we know this as UM fans, by the way. This is like, I'm not sitting here saying this like I've never seen this before. Like I've seen it a billion times as a UM fan. Like there are times, there are games we have lost. I can name you a dozen in the last 6 years, that we shouldn't have lost because we thought we were going to win. We just showed up. And that's the same exact. Yeah. And that's the same exact vibe I got from Alabama playing FSU. Or do you think FSU is legit?
I think it's a mixture of things. I think they're better, obviously, than their 2-10 season last year. They have a totally different roster, but I 100% agree that Alabama didn't want to be there. Like they had no interest in playing that game. I think it's a little scary if you're an Alabama fan and your team didn't get up for that game, not because it's an out of conference opponent where apparently it doesn't mean as much as it does in the SEC. I mean, I hear that it means more there, so maybe they just didn't care about that so much. But when you let a quarterback that makes Doug Flutie look like Boban Marjanovic in height and Thomas Castellanos, like when you let him talk as much smack as you do in the offseason, and you don't get up for that, like it didn't seem like they really cared. They didn't care about any trash talk. They didn't care about any stadium. The stadium noise got to them. You're playing in a league that's supposed to have 80, 90, 100,000 seat stadiums, and you go into a stadium that was just lowered its capacity, like 70 something thousand to 66,000. And they make you look like you're shaking in your boots. That's a real big cause for concern. On the Florida State side, I thought what was really interesting is that the Gus Malzahn offense that they ran against Alabama is usually a type of offense that a really physical Alabama defense or a really physical defense eats for lunch, because it reminded me of the Rhett Lashley offense that you saw under Manny Diaz. There were some big plays that Florida State had where you're watching like just one guy kind of come into motion, and it's not that he's wide open because it's a great play call. It's wide open guy because they're running up tempo, and it's just like a complete lapse of judgment in the secondary or in the linebacking core, where it's like you see the guy in the backfield, there's nobody following him out, and he's just wide open. And that's what you saw a lot with Rhett Lashley's system because they were snapping the ball so quickly. So I don't know if it's Florida State is they're more disciplined for sure, because to run an offense like that, you have to be, you have to be together. You have to be conditioned. You're running basically a flag football offense at that point in time. There was a lot of like zone reads and quick little hitches and stuff. That's like, this is usually where press coverage and where a really good front four would annihilate an offense like that. And you didn't see it because Bama just didn't have the intensity or the physicality.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's the key word too. It's just, and it's so weird to say because FSU's coming off this 2-10 season and this is Bama, but like it just felt like FSU just bullied their way through the game. They were just like, no, we don't care who you are. And props to Tommy Castellanos. Like we made fun of him, when he said it, and I stand corrected. I did not know your game, sir, as the great Shaq would say. But props to him for standing on business. And he did. Like that was after the first two drives, I was like, this kid's for real. And I'm not saying FSU is going to contend for the ACC championship. Like that's not where I'm going with this. But when you hear a quarterback say that, and specifically he's directing it towards such an elite program like Alabama, a program that just reloads every year. And they do. Like I pointed it out in the preview. I was like, I'm not sure if you knew this, Rudy, but like, Alabama, every player on their defense is number one in their position. Like they're ranked number one. Like every single player on the defense is the best, ranked the best in their position. Like that's wild. I mean, now granted, because it's 2025 and not 2014 or 2015, like there's the number twos are nowhere near as good as the number ones. And you saw that, there was definitely a drop off in talent, but like, it's just, I cannot believe that Tommy Castellanos did what he did. And again, through him. Like this wasn't like, they had this stud wide receiver who came in, who transferred in, who was going to be really good, or this running back who was highly touted did this. No, they literally told Tommy, we're going to put this on your shoulders. You said it. You wanted to open your mouth, make it happen. And he did. And I think FSU is going to give a lot of teams problems this year. Either that, or it is way worse for Alabama. And you said 6-6 at best. I mean, if FSU is really bad this year, I mean, that only gives me, I'm like, no, I don't even remotely see Alabama contending for anything. Barely. Yeah. I think they'll barely make a bowl. Again, it's week 1, so we don't know. And I think Alabama will be fine. I think they will be bowl eligible. I think they'll go probably more than 6-6. They need to. I mean, I don't see a program like that doing that. But if they do, oof,
they could pull a Clemson. They could do what Clemson did last year, which they got annihilated by Georgia to start the year. They wake up, they get better at each game, they sneak their way conference championship. Like, yeah, they could totally do that. But at the same time, they can't play like they did against Florida State. And the fact that Castellanos threw 13 passes?
Yeah, it was when I tell you on his back, he literally put that team on his back and was like, I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna run it. And you're gonna see me do it. And smart choices. The RPO is, and people have said, like, Gus Malzahn, and I had mentioned it in the preview of that game. I was like, Gus Malzahn and Tommy Castellanos is match made in heaven. And it's gonna, I think the two of them are going to give a lot of defenses fits, only for the pure fact that it's just hard when you have a talented, like a guy who's athletically gifted, right? I don't know arm wise, play decision making wise, how he'll fare. But when you have a guy who's that athletic and you have a mastermind in Gus Malzahn who can scheme things up really originally, it's a recipe for disaster. Again, I'm not saying FSU is going to win the Natty and they're gonna be in Charlotte. That's definitely not what I don't think they're that good. And I'm confident in our team, and I think we'll prove that after Florida. But I will say I am glad we have now that we're seeing things unfold after, and it's just week one, but seeing things unfold after week one, I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with our schedule now, having the bye before FSU and then the bye after going into Louisville, because Louisville looked great. I mean, they didn't play anyone, but Miller Moss, dude. I mean,
yeah, and Isaac Brown too.
But yeah, I mean, like,
yeah.
It's so like I think the ACC is coming to play this year. I think minus Syracuse getting bludgeoned by Tennessee, like, we can talk about that really quick. Just like they hit the jackpot. Like, you lose Nico Imaliava and you have to start Joey Aguilar, and that guy does everything you need him to do. Like, again, chef's kiss. Like, you could not have asked for a better situation. Did you catch that game at all? The Syracuse-Tennessee game?
I just saw the highlights, and it's one of those where I'm not surprised, because if you look at Josh Heupel, he was a system quarterback himself under Oklahoma. So he's going to put in a system that it doesn't matter who the guy is. You can get a big head on you and say, well, yeah, I'm the guy that makes this work. You're profiting off the system. So you plug in the next guy who knows the offense. There you go.
Yeah, when I tell you the score is not indicative of how the game was, it's not. It's not. I think there was only maybe like a 14-point, which is what it was. This was the spread, but Tennessee dominated that game. Syracuse looks horrible. You now know why Steve Angeli left Notre Dame. It's very apparent why he's like, yeah, I'm not winning this. I'm not going to win this QB battle. I'm not that. They're going to be really bad. Did you catch the Clemson LSU game at all?
I watched it.
It
was, yeah.
Hot take. Here's my hot take. One of two things occurred in that game. One, both of those teams are not that good. Like, they're just, I don't get the hype. I thought Nussmeier looked rusty as hell. Cade Klubnik, very inaccurate. I was not impressed with either of those quarterbacks. Defenses look good. Or inverse, both of those teams are so freaking good, they made each other look stupid. Like that, yeah. I couldn't figure out which one it was. I was like, is it they're really bad and like they just got like a ton of rust they need to shake off? Because like towards the second half, it definitely was a tale of two halves, right? Like, obviously Clemson going into the half with a lead, obviously losing the game in the second half, LSU coming back, which again, I thought LSU was going to go 0-6 again with their openers losing to Clemson, but they rallied back. Finally, Brian Kelly was able to break that curse. But at the same time, I was like, or are these guys really just not that great? Because the first half, neither team looked spectacular. Neither of them looked like championship contending teams. It was like very rusty / or the defenses were just stellar. What did you get from it?
Yeah, my take is that I think there was a lot of hype going into the game because it's one of the few places where you've had consistency at a quarterback position for so long. Garrett Nussmeier being there at LSU for as long as he has, and Cade Klubnik also being at Clemson for as long as he has. I think there was a lot of expectations that they would make another step. I think the momentum off of what Clemson did last year to make the college football playoff after having what was a abysmal start, I think gave people a real false sense of security as to what they were going to do. I fit in with you in the first observation of, I just don't think they're that good, because I don't think those teams are really that good last year. They didn't really retool that much. If anything, they lost some players, and Clemson went to the portal, went to go get a couple guys, but I just don't think that moved the needle for them. I think it's just they expected another step up. You can watch a game and you can watch two teams who are very good who make each other look bad, but you still see really good execution, or you see something that's like a spectacular play
Yes.
by
Which
somebody.
I
You see,
I felt like that's what we were. I felt that's kind of what last night was for Notre Dame, minus the whole like not Jeremiah Love not being a factor. But I thought again, props to CJ Carr, like dude's coming down first game and in a hostile environment, and I thought he played relatively well. He made the mistakes. All his mistakes were atypical. They were things that you would expect of a true freshman, right? But other than that, he game managed great. He brought them back. I thought he did great. But LSU and Clemson, who have veteran senior quarterbacks, guys who are expected to compete for the Heisman, I did not see that. I was it was very, as the kids would say, very mid to me. Like it was I was just like, okay. I mean, if this is who you think are the national contenders and who are going to win their respective, because a lot of people are begging LSU to win the SEC or win the national championship. A lot of big pundits, or Clemson to win the ACC and be in the college football playoffs. I'm like, if you guys are saying, I truly believe we will absolutely be in contention then. If you're telling me that's the best and that's the bar that has been set,
yeah, sign me up.
100%. Yeah, I'm with it. And I think this year, even going to the Texas Ohio State game, again, it's week 1. I understand that all of these observations I make are so like just like you got to take them with a grain of salt, and I do. This is again why they're hot takes, but not impressed by Arch Manning. I was like, this guy is, and there's this really funny AI of Eli and Peyton watching the OSU game, and he throws the interception, and Peyton's just got like this. He's like, I told you he was adopted. I was
It's like
dying.
that's Cooper's genes. That's not ours.
Yeah,
That's why
exactly.
Cooper
But
didn't play college football. Yeah.
yeah, but like just watching that game, I was very unimpressed with Julian Sayin and Arch Manning. I was like, okay, I mean, again, I'm not saying they're bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you're talking about programs where UM is supposed to be here. Oh, you can see on the screen here, and Ohio State's supposed to be off the screen, or Texas is supposed to be off the screen. Now, Texas's defense is great. You know, I thought
Yep.
they played really well. But quarterbacks, right? I think this year there is the most parity. It will be the most even. Holy crap. I'm going to say something that's going to be super crazy. I never thought I'd say, but holy crap, Penn State might actually have a chance this year. Like James Franklin may actually get over the hump. He has the most veteran. Like, I mean, he finally got a wide receiver. I mean, we'll see what, Pena does up there throughout the rest of the season. But I mean, I don't,
Yeah, they're high.
I'm not impressed by, by impressed, I mean, like, I'm not saying, ooh, like before years past, I would say, oh yeah, we're out of league with Texas. We're out of league with Georgia. We're out of league with Ohio State, Oregon, all these teams you typically hear about. I don't think we are. I think
No,
this is, and I'm not saying this is a homer. I truly believe this objectively. I think we can contend with any of those teams. I think if the CFP started today, I would have faith, maybe not to run it and go all the way. I don't know about that yet. But I definitely don't see us getting blown out in the first round. Like what happened to Clemson last year with Texas, or what happened to Arizona State when they played Texas. You know what I mean? Like I don't see that. I see us actually contending. I see it being a really good game if we make the
I agree.
CFPs. Yeah, I think
I
it's
agree.
I think it's going to be a fun and interesting year. Rudy, hopefully we can make you a regular more on this, or at least at a bare minimum, bro. Just give me the reactions, bro. Give me the recaps. I just want to do these recaps with you at a bare minimum. I want to get you back on here. If I have to reel you in every week, I'm gonna reel you in. We'll do it live from a boat. I don't care. Get you, I'm here, Chris.
Hey, we got seakeepers. It'll be pretty stable. Got some good internet too.
I'm excited, bro, for this season. It's going to be a good one. Well, everyone, we got another one in the books. Be good, y'all. Win this week. We will see you later on Friday for our week 2 preview. Hopefully, we can get Rudy back either for a preview or for a recap. I want to see more of him moving forward. Until then, y'all, win the week because the weekend has already been won. And as always, go Canes.
Yeah, baby.